Denim Couch Podcast. Ooh, whoa, ooh, whoa.
The 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with Steph with an F.
Hi guys, welcome to the Denim Couch Podcast, where we chill on this denim couch and talk about the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm Stephanie Tanner. Welcome. Hey guys, it's Stephanie Tanner with the Denim Couch Podcast. Welcome to episode number 8 of the Denim Couch Podcast. We are just going to recap the last 7 or so episodes. It'll be short, but if you have not yet listened to one of these episodes, I think this will give you a good idea of what they're about and maybe the description of the episode will pique your interest. So yeah, this episode will be pretty quick for the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'll also do a recap of all the people I have interviewed. And then I'm so excited. I'm also going to show you a little snippet of next week's episode. I recently interviewed Liz from Flea Market Love Letters, and I love this lady. I love her. She's awesome. We got done with the interview and she emailed me and said, officially very hyper, LOL. Her boyfriend has asked her if she'd like a glass of wine to wind down. So we were both really excited to talk to each other and have some of the same interests. And she collects letters from the past. And so she'll go to flea markets and collect these letters, and I'll let her tell you all about it in next week's episode. I think you'll really enjoy it. Let's just say I'm really pumped for next week's episode. So I'm looking forward to posting it. And here's the snippet of what you can expect on episode 9 of the Denim Couch Podcast to end the 40s and 50s section.
But there's one series of I just did a series of a love triangle, which I hesitate to kind of use the word love triangle because they are real people, and it made it a lot of questions that I get are sort of and I don't get them publicly. People will sort of privately message them to me. Like, do you ever feel weird publicizing people's personal letters? I've had family members before say they're not interested in the project because it makes them uncomfortable. There's different reactions to it. It's honestly, there's one series I just did that'll go up in, I don't even want to say January because it could go up in October of next year. But it'll go up in 2020, and it's fairly interesting. It's a med student. He's from the 40s. And he's it's not from the 40s. He's from the 30s, right as World War II starts. Mm-hmm. And there's a part in one of the letters where he's writing to his sweetheart from a different township, basically. And he's saying, mom, dad, and his brother were listening to and basically declare war on the radio. And he said, I could hear it from upstairs and I didn't want to go downstairs. So I just stayed in bed. And that's such a wild thing. That it's the 19th, but also the vibe for it wasn't like the way he was writing wasn't, I was so sad. It was just bed was more comfortable, which was ridiculous to me. Like I was sitting there, I was like, he's just it's just the simpleness of jotting it down, but the significance of it. And that's a letter series where a pregnancy scare comes up.
Set out to answer this question that has been going through my mind consistently for months now, which is, were people back in the day generally happier than we are today? My favorite thing has got to be so far just the interviews. I just enjoy interviewing people about their experience. This is more of a recap. Yeah, so, in our most recent episode, we had a conversation with Daria Hutch, and Daria has got to be one of my most favorite people I have ever talked to. This lady is just first off, such a great storyteller. If you haven't yet, you should definitely go back and listen to that episode, and also check her out on Instagram, where she has written her story on many of her posts, and boy, is she a great writer. Multiple people are saying that she should write a book, and I'm all about that. So her story is, about mental health and family and connection and love and healing and all of those things combined. And I think that right there, she is the one who said exactly that. She said, we had a great conversation a few weeks ago about mental health, family, connection, love, and healing have just been so at the front of my mind all the time because of this podcast experience, because I've been able to sit down and chat with these wonderful people and basically dive deeper into what's most important to them. And each person is unique in their own way. But these 5 things seem to be brought up more often than not. And so, yes, I would say with Daria, we talked about mental health. We talked about her family. We talked about family in general. We really focused on the connection. And I have come to find a few things. Of course, Daria's story. So I'm going to be summing up some of their stories right here. So Daria's story is about her parents and how her parents met and their story of marriage and then having kids. And then years later, her mother unfortunately got schizophrenia at the age of 29, which was incredibly unexpected. And we talk about the struggle of this, but how she still was able to feel connection to her mother by seeing photos of her mother before she had schizophrenia. So she didn't really know her before she had schizophrenia. But then there's this wonderful passage that she has that I'll quote right now. She says, "Then I saw this photo and I was like, I know her. I know her. This is the part of her spirit that lives on through me. This photo feels like that one piece of elusive evidence that suddenly cracks open a 50-year-old cold case. I have that same shade of pink lipstick." And you'll get why when you go listen back to that episode of the podcast. But the connection that she felt with her mother through seeing these photos, but also she talks about how she in some way always felt that connection, even though many times and most of the time her mother was not all mentally there. But as people, we yearn for this connection with those people around us, the family members, the friends that we value and find most important. We yearn for that connection. And yeah, and the sad thing is oftentimes we may not, be able to, many times and oftentimes we may not be able to have that connection. We may not be able to connect as well as we want, in this circumstance that was really difficult. And then I also find that just generally we have a serious lack of connection with the people around us right now. And I'll talk about that a little more. And then we'll take it back to episode 5 with Helen. Helen is a longtime friend of mine. She is a grandmother to one of my friends growing up. And what I took away from her visit or her interview is really what it is to be kind. She had a lot of cool things to say about what life was like and what fun things they did, and what her style was like, what her relationship was like with her sister. And she's a pretty fun lady to chat with. We talked about how important it is to be able to support yourself, because you never know what your situation may be. And she ran into some serious situations, some serious health situations with her husband, and she was stuck unsure, of how she was going to go on and how her family was going to be able to go on, depending on what happened with his medical condition. And so she talks about empowering women and people in general to get an education or be able to in some way support yourself, and kind of have that backup plan, which is super important. And then my favorite part was a nice little snippet that she talked about Eeyore. So we all know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, and just go back and listen to it. Episode 5. It's so great. But I'll kind of sum it up here too. She talks about how Eeyore is, this sad, depressed guy. He's a sad, depressed character. And, he's never excited. He's never happy. He's never the life of the party. He's never outgoing. He's sad and depressed. And she talks about how there's some memes out there that say, get rid of the negative people in your life. And to some degree, yes, it's not good to be surrounded by negative people all the time. I will agree with that. But what I like that she had to say is that, Winnie, I like the name Winnie, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and Tigger and the bunny, who I can't remember right now, they would always reach out to talk to Eeyore and see how Eeyore was doing, and go over to Eeyore's house and just always check in on Eeyore and see how he's doing. And he always appreciated it, and you could always tell that Eeyore, although still depressed, was feeling a little bit better and a little bit lighter. And I mean, this is a cartoon, but just in that story, you can tell how much that meant to him and how much he needed that. So, I love that. There are many people out there who, yes, may not be the most positive influence in your life. And you should definitely hang out with positive influences. But don't forget those who may be a little sad and maybe a little depressed and may need someone to reach out to them. So go listen to Helen too if you haven't, because I hadn't heard that in a while, and it just really got to me how important that is. And then Nancy. Okay, Nancy Taylor is a hoot, and her interview was interesting and actually has one of the most listens, which is awesome. I'm really getting to know these people, even though many of them I have never spoken with before. But with these type of questions, we just get down to what means the most to them. And for Nancy, that was her kids, of course. And I think most of us can relate. And if not, just people that we work with or that we're friends with or that we spend the most time with are, the most important thing to us in this life. So her children, who are all adopted, are the most important thing to her. And she's been a caretaker all her life, and our conversation, it just revolved around that, with a lot of very cool and unique stories and a lot of hardship that she endured. What I took away from it personally was that, what am I doing worrying about all these other things when all I really want in this life and what I know will make me happy is having people around me. And for me, this is kids. I definitely, she actually convinced me that I want to focus on kids right now and having kids and having children, whether that means we start having kids now or adopt many later on. I don't know. Once again, that's kind of personal, but all I know is the importance of children and how wonderful they are, and how meaningful that was to her really affected me and really made an impact on me. And I just know that it's such a wonderful thing to have kids and to take care of kids and to be around kids, and kids are just the biggest joy that you can ever find. They're the most creative, most special, most encouraging. And the great thing about kids is they haven't had the life experiences that just completely bring them down for most. I can't say that for every kid, but the more difficult experiences and hardships that you have, the more difficult life gets and the harder it is to deal with your mind. And with these kids are innocent and they're loving and they don't judge. They're happy. They say what they mean. They discover, they explore. Faye was so fun. He's my only man in the 40s and 50s, sadly, but let's just say it's a lot easier to interview women. It's a lot easier for me to get interviews with women for people in their 80s and 90s right now, but we'll get some more men on the Denim Couch podcast here in a bit. Faye had some really cool stories, and what I took away from Faye is, what could they have possibly done for fun back then without technology? Well, Faye did a lot of things. I mean, impressively enough, this man had polio for a year or two of his life, didn't even know it, but he could not walk that entire year. He even army crawled with his arms because he couldn't walk, and still didn't think much of it because he just knew how to deal with hardship. He knew how to deal when something negative crossed his path. So Faye really focused on just making your own fun. Making your own fun. What does that even mean? Do we even do that now? I don't think so. Some of us do, but those are the really creative people and the people who I think are in the habit of creating their own fun. Most of us aren't. Most of us are in the habit of hanging out with our phone or having our phone create the fun. And what I mean by that is having our phone, play YouTube, or the fun and the entertainment is a button away. So this is definitely not creating our own fun. It really requires hardly any action or hardly any activity, physical activity and mental activity. Now, I don't think being entertained by technology is a bad thing, but I think we're missing out. We are seriously missing out. Okay, and then we talked to Iona, who had the cutest love story ever, and was just a super, super sweetheart. I think my favorite thing about Iona is that she just admired her husband's sense of humor so much. And I think this is great. This is kind of where the embarrassing story ties in for me, at least. I think it's so important to have a lot of fun, and part of that is not taking life too seriously, and therefore embarrassing stories. I enjoy making fun of myself. I hope you do too, because if you can't make fun of yourself, what are you doing? And if embarrassing things happen to you all the time, then there's just no point in dwelling on the humiliation and the awkwardness of the situation. It's funny. And then lastly, the first episode, Shirley Sanders, what I took away from interviewing her has definitely got to be something she said near the very end of the episode, which was that when things happen in life and when you're dealt a really hard deck of cards, you have to adjust to life. It's like you're always adjusting. Personally, when I hit change or a roadblock, I tend to like to just initially freak out, and it's necessary to adjust. Okay, so life is an adjustment, and yeah, overall, I think one of the greatest things about being able to interview people is I feel like I am getting so much from these people, and I'm able to apply it to my life. So each episode has affected me in a different way, and I've learned so much from each episode and each person that I otherwise wouldn't have. So I'm super excited about that. One thing I find interesting is part of me wants there to be one simple answer to everything. Like one simple answer to happiness. So if I did this one thing for the rest of my life, I'd just be ecstatically happy. Or I want to combine everything into one small thing. And I'm learning through this process that all these people have different things to say and different lessons to give, because we all have different experiences and the different things that are important to different people. And I find that very interesting, and I am trying to apply that to my life rather than I'm trying to take something away from each person and help myself grow. I want to become a better connector. I want to be a friend to the people around me. I want to give to the people around me. Yeah, I'm learning that, we're all individuals, but we're all here to be there for each other. So there's me summing it up, because that's what I like to do. Alrighty. All right, to end this podcast, did anything embarrassing happen this week? I feel like yes. And what was that embarrassing thing? Yes. Okay. Something embarrassing did happen this week. It wasn't to me. The thing that came to mind is my sister's wedding was this week, and it was amazing. It was awesome. And let's just say her husband goes by a different name, but his first name is actually David. And so no one knows him by David except for his family members, and he goes by a different first name. And so the officiate is calling him David, and we're all like, my side of the family is like, you've got the wrong name. So my dad actually speaks up and says, sir, I think you have the wrong name. And then the officiate's like, I'm just reading what's off the paper. We should be fine here. Yeah, his side of the family has to explain that is actually his name, and that he goes by his middle name. Although it was embarrassing for my father, I do think it was helpful for the rest of us, because the whole time I thought he was just going to call him this other name. Okay, so that's this week's embarrassing story. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a great week. And seriously, look forward to next week's episode number 9. I think it's a perfect way to wrap up the 40s and 50s, because a lot of these letters are from that time period. And, we've heard from people back then, but these letters are written in that decade.
If you came here for mental health help, please go visit your doctor. If you're looking for some mental health tips, Dr. Daniel Amen is someone I follow. I love what he has to say and offer. I think his website is brainhealthassessment.com, and he just has some awesome checklist items that go over brain health. So like checklist items for habits that you should be doing to have better brain health. I want to say there's like 5 to 10 items. And if you have those, if you're working on those habits and trying to improve them to improve your brain health, you'll also improve your happiness level, because brain health equals mental health. So keep your brains happy and healthy, and check out Dr. Daniel Amen. This is not sponsored. I just really like what he has to say, and I think it's really beneficial. I think it can help a lot of people. It's actually very matter of fact, kind of obvious, but yet we neglect so many of these habits daily. And I do feel like, if you're feeling unhappy, that may be one of the reasons you're unhappy, because you're neglecting your brain health, which is also your mental health. And trying to improve these habits could really help. So check him out. If you have any stories from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, please get in contact with me. Let's chat. I want nothing more than to chat about the past. I want nothing more than to chat about the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you have any specific questions that I'm not asking that you would like to know about these eras while interviewing these people, please let me know. I would love some advice, and I would love your input. So what would you guys like to know?